The Insomniac. Episode 3, The Threshold of Madness. The body begged for rest. The mind refused. Carter Vayne had long since crossed the boundary of exhaustion into something else entirely, a state of being where time folded into itself, where the world flickered like a dying bulb. He was deteriorating, but within the decay, something sharper had emerged. A new self. A more evolved mind, freed from the weakness of sleep. But the hunger had changed. The clean mechanics of his killings, the certainty, the control, had begun to fracture. Hesitation had entered the equation, infecting his once flawless precision. It was Evelyn Mercer. Her voice. Her presence. The way she saw through him without fear. He had stood outside her apartment for hours the night before, fingers flexing at his sides, mind unraveling with the decision he could not make. He could kill her. He should. Kill her, his mind screamed. But something inside him resisted. "You're changing," Evelyn said. Carter studied her from across the office. She was dressed in muted gray today, a color that made her seem distant. Almost ethereal. The way the light caught the edge of her cheekbone, the subtle movements of her throat when she spoke, all of it was data, information absorbed into the machine of his mind. "Am I?" "Yes." Her pen hovered over her notepad, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Your speech patterns are shifting. You're pausing before answering, as if part of you is unsure of the words." Carter smiled. A flicker of something passed between them. Something unspoken. "Maybe I'm just tired," he murmured. Evelyn set the notepad down. "Carter, I want to try something." His fingers twitched against his thigh. "I'm listening." A controlled sleep induction. She leaned forward, eyes steady. A method used in extreme cases of intractable insomnia. "I've studied cases where high-intensity theta wave exposure, combined with targeted sedatives, has allowed patients who have lost the ability to sleep to enter brief states of unconsciousness. If I can get you to sleep, even for a few seconds, it could reset something in your brain." Carter's jaw tightened. The very idea repulsed him. Sleep was the enemy. Sleep was death. His mind existed in an elevated state because it had evolved past the need for unconsciousness. To surrender to it, even momentarily, felt like regression. "I'm not your experiment," he said quietly. "No," she agreed. "But I think you're afraid." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I fear sleep? I think you fear what you'll see in it." Carter went still. The air between them thickened. For a moment, he saw himself through her eyes, the hollowed-out gaze. The micro-tremors in his fingers. The barely contained violence coiled within his frame. She saw him, truly saw him. And she did not look away. The thought of that kind of knowing terrified him. That night, Carter did not go to Evelyn's apartment. Instead, he prowled the city, seeking the kind of clarity only a kill could bring. The streets blurred past him, neon reflections bleeding in puddles, distant horns and sirens weaving into a fractured symphony. His body moved with its own logic, his hands flexing at his sides. Waiting. Analyzing. He found a woman walking alone. Dark coat. Earbuds in. Oblivious. A clean kill. Simple. Mechanical. A return to form. He shadowed her, steps precise, breath even. She turned down a side street, and he followed, his pulse steady. He reached for the blade inside his coat, fingers wrapping around the handle, and then, her face turned in the glow of a street lamp. For a split second, she had Evelyn's eyes. Carter froze. The hesitation shattered something inside him. He recoiled, stepping back into the shadows. The woman continued on, never knowing how close she had come to the abyss. His hands were shaking. It was wrong. All of it was wrong. Killing had always been certainty. An act of will. But now, doubt gnawed at him, eroding the foundation of what he was. Evelyn had done this to him. Back in his apartment, Carter stared at his own reflection. The hallucinations had worsened. His own eyes stared back at him from the mirror. But there was something else beneath them, something watching. The glass warped, the reflection rippling, and for a moment, he saw himself split into two. One Carter, the hunter. Cold. Perfect. The other, something uncertain. Something flawed. His nails dug into his palms. He could not allow this fracture to continue. The answer was clear. Evelyn Mercer had become an anomaly in his system. A disruption to his perfect equation. She had to die. Only then could he restore balance. Only then would the craving return. Carter exhaled slowly, feeling the stillness settle over him. He reached for his coat. His knife. His purpose. Tonight, he would fix what had been broken. Tonight, he would finally sleep.